Hey,
Well, I'm okay with having it
Okay,
off on Christmas,
I didn't hear it, I was involved in this.
yeah, just 26th and
Okay.
1st.
but January 2nd, there's a
Yeah.
chance that some people might want to come in and pay taxes, so I think they work January 2nd. Because we give them Thanksgiving Day or day after Thanksgiving off. It does fall on a Thursday this year, Christmas and New Year's, so.
Not necessarily the whole staff, but it should be open, like if the assistant's here, if the assistant auditor, if the assistant treasurer, you mean
Well,
full staff?
it really isn't fair to the rest of them.
Well, they got vacation, yeah, okay. But that is a motion?
That's my motion, that they work December, or January 2nd, and they get December 26th off.
Understand it? Bill, would you agree? that they-
I'll second it,
Okay,
but I want to discuss this a little bit.
okay, now we're discussing.
Okay, now, all right.
Open it.
Don't we have a manual that is
Days off?
well, I mean, general manual for, gives what days are vacation, what are not.
See, the only concern is it's when it's on that Thursday. You know, then you've got that Friday, they come back, if they're up in Minot or someplace, they come back for one day and then they're off the next two. Otherwise, you know, if it's Wednesday, it's a little different, or Tuesday or Monday, you know, that's a little different. So it's not on a regular basis that they always request that these 2 days be off.
But do we have a manual that, okay, and then I'll look at that, okay, so these are just some separate days
Yeah.
that come up.
Just
Okay.
because of how they landed on the calendar this
Okay.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second that. I
Okay.
did.
Any other discussion?
I guess I did.
Oh, see, there. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We got the Highway 52 project.
It's in your packets.
Okay.
I thought I put it
Let's see.
in. That was at public hearing.
This here?
Yeah, it's that public hearing. Not a hearing, but a public
one like
input
this.
meeting, this one here.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay,
I
okay.
probably got it in here someplace, go ahead.
They just asked
got it,
that
yeah.
the commissioners.
Is it in that packet?
Yeah.
Okay, I really haven't had a chance to open it for some reason. Oh, there it is.
Right here. Yeah, I had trouble finding mine too. Public input meeting, December 8th. And it's about Highway 52. There's gonna be a project west of Carrington. All the way from, I seen the report last time and it was from, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's from the junction to 281 and 200 all the way west to the Pheasanton corner,
Blinking light.
the blinking light.
Okay,
That they're gonna reconstruct, and they gotta have public input. And they're just informing us that it's on December 8th, open house from 5 to 7 p.m. and at Carrington City Council chambers. It'll be conducted by the DOT. Any comments or any concern with us?
were they,
Could somebody be
I
there?
thought I heard they were looking at a 4-lane, is that true?
It's down the road, yeah. You
It's
hear
down the
that?
road.
And they probably would start from Minot down or whatever.
Well, I heard that all the way
Yeah.
to Buchanan. huh?
They should.
Okay.
Any concerns?
No, I haven't.
No, I don't.
I think it's a good deal.
Okay, so there's no written concerns, and if we're there, and if we're not, we're not. So we've been notified.
Is that mandated we be here? Should mandate that we be at that meeting or not?
You can sit in if you want. It's from, 5 to 7. It's in the evening. Just
Okay.
mark it on your calendar if you can make it. I'm sure they'll have some input of what's gonna happen. But I think it's just to resurface and widening. It's not a 4-lane that they're gonna be doing. Okay, and here's something to remind you, we have the 6th County meeting coming up on the 12th of December at 10 a.m. and it's at, Jim says it's at Linton. So, what do we wanna, meet here? What's it take? Linton is
2 hours.
2 hours down there, so you're talking about 8:30, you're talking about 7:30, huh? Meet here,
Oh, if we leave by 8, we'll make it.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So whoever wants to go, we should be here at 8 o'clock at the courthouse.
We need
And
to RSVP for head count for food, so.
the 12th.
It's called what, a tri-state meeting?
It's a
Tri-county, or six counties.
meeting.
Six county meeting.
Okay.
I plan on going. Jim?
Yeah, I haven't missed.
I hope I can go, yeah.
Yeah, so we gotta leave at 8. You're still doing your bus routes?
Well, I get in about 5 or 10 after 8, but, we're in such a problem with our finding sub-drivers or drivers, period.
Yeah. Well, then if the road is a little tough, it takes a little longer. If it's cold,
I'll
it'll
go
take
a little
longer.
faster, maybe get in by 8 o'clock, so.
So you wanna plan on going? and
I wanna
we'll see
plan,
if we-
oh, yes, I need to take that in.
Yeah,
If I can get a sub-driver, I'll do that.
okay. Okay, all three. And the auditor, we'll see, yeah. Okay.
We take a bus?
Well, I got a couple of vehicles here.
Oh, okay. And does the county have a van or something like that?
There's one here, but I don't know if we wanna go that far. It's one of them deals.
Okay.
I have at the end 52 project and then public meetings, is that
That's
part?
what you just went over.
Okay, public meeting. 20 after yet, I got about 20 after, so we'll,
Mel's here.
yeah, we'll keep on schedule. Mel, do you wanna come up and you're on the agenda here? Ambulance funding? You on the
morning.
ambulance board, good morning.
Hey, Mel.
I'm here today, mainly I'm concerned about the funding for the ambulance that is coming from, we have a 3 mil tax levy for ambulance replacement and 4 mils for operation. And the first thing I'd like to say that although I'm on the ambulance squad, I am not representing the ambulance department at all. I'm here as an individual taxpayer. I'm going to refer some to the ambulance department because I'm really involved with, I'm a transfer driver. I do the bulk of the transfers. And we have an ambulance that we use for transfers that's 17 years old. It's got 144,000 miles on it. And I think it needs to be replaced. And I've been paying attention to how much money is being raised and where we're at. And that has created a little problem because I've had a lot of difficulty finding out how much money had been raised, where it's at, and so forth. And so I did some investigating. And it's something that any of you could have done. I watched some of the county commission meetings, and you've been concerned about what the 3 mills is divided between McHenry and Carrington and what the division is, and there doesn't seem to be any record of it or that you know of or so forth. So I did some investigating. Give you a copy. This is a copy. I went to the auditor's office and they let me go through their minute books of 2010, and I've got all the minutes from I don't have all the minutes, but I picked out the ones that referred to the ambulance. Now, this first one here was a meeting March 16th, 2010. And you'll notice down a ways I got a paragraph circled. It said, Mr. Carr requested information on the ambulance tax levy, and it was determined that 1.5 mils will generate $21,044, and 66% would be going to the Carrington Health Center, or $13,889, I'm just rounding them off, and 33% would go to the McHenry Ambulance Service of $7,155. And all agreed that 3 years of tax collections amounting to $41,669 for the Carrington Health Center should purchase a new chassis for the ambulance. And that term, new chassis, the ambulance squad looked at it and we thought it was a joke because we're looking at a new ambulance, not just a chassis. Later on, there's another one where it's referred to as a drivetrain. But I don't know how long this 1.5 mils has been in place. I didn't go back beyond this meeting in March, but when I looked at it, and there's 66% that goes to Carrington, 33% to McHenry, that's 99%. What happened to the other percent? And if you're into math at all, if you look at McHenry gets $7,100 and Carrington gets $1,300 and some dollars, that's not an even split. So if you do the math on it, the figures here, McHenry gets 34% and Carrington gets 66%. Okay, now I'll give you another minutes of another meeting that was in August of 2010. And you'll see that was a special meeting called August 24, 2010. And the purpose of the meeting was to adopt a resolution to place the question of increasing the ambulance tax levy from 1.5 mills to 3 mills with tax collection to be divided between the service areas of Carrington Ambulance District and McHenry Ambulance District for the replacement of depreciated ambulance vehicles. And they had questioned Paul Murphy, and he phoned to say his review of the petitions concurred with the county auditor's finding of the 225 valid signatures, and he approved the language to place the question before the voters on November 2nd. And the resolution read, whereas the voters approved a 1.5 mil levy in 1980, due to higher cost to operate the ambulance vehicles, it has now become necessary to increase the ambulance levy to 3 mills. And therefore be it resolved, if approved by a simple majority of the qualified electors of the county commissioners shall increase the current ambulance service budget to 3 mills for subsidizing emergency medical service by creating a vehicle depreciation fund for the sole purpose to replace the drivetrain of current operating vehicles. And here again, instead of drivetrain, it should be the complete ambulance. That's real minor there, but you'll notice up above that, this 1.5 mills was put in 1980. And where that money has accumulated, or where it was sitting, or some of it was even used because they did replace some equipment along the way, I don't have any information on that. Okay, that's where they are. Now we'll fast forward to 2012. And here again, these are just pages out of the auditor's minute book. October 2nd, 2012. And you see where I got the paragraph. Paul Murphy, state's attorney, was called by Auditor Floatman to voice any concerns over measure number 1 for the increase in 4 mills for ambulance services, and county measure number 2 for 4 mills over 6 years to build a new road department shop at Carrington. Mr. Murphy has approved measure 1, however, he would like measure 2 to read as the number 1 draft copy, which read to approve a county shop building at the estimated cost of $430,000 to be raised over 6 years at $70,000 a year. So this 4 mil for ambulance operation was passed. Okay. Now and you remember that when they initiated that 1.5 mills, it was 66 and 33 or 66 and 34. And when it was changed to 3 mills, nothing was said about the percentage. So I assumed that percentage just stayed in place. 1/3, 2/3, yeah. Okay. Now in reality, I got figures here from the county treasurer, of the money that has been paid out to the McHenry and Carrington Ambulance Service. And in 2012, now this was in 2011 is when the 3 mills started, and this was paid in the year 2012. The Carrington Health Center received $30,805. McHenry Ambulance got $13,202. And when you do the math on that, the percentage is 70-30. Where the 70-30 came from, I don't know. I asked the treasurer, and she pointed to the auditor's office as it came from there. And of course, back the different auditor now, so there's really no way of checking there. But and we'll go on to 2013, and the Carrington Health Center received $35,440. McHenry got $15,188. Again, a 70-30 split. Now in 2014 it got a little stickier because they made 2 payments during the year, and the first payment in February, McHenry got $8,388, and then in July they got another payment of $9,249 for a total of $17,638. When they sent the money to Carrington Health Center, they lumped the Carrington's portion of the 3 mills and the 4 mills together. And in February, the health center got $53,626. And in July, they got another $62,364 for a total of $115,991. Now, if McHenry's 30% was $17,638, Carrington's 70% would have been in the $39,000–$40,000 range. But it was never broken down that way. And you'll see on there that in 2011, 1 mill generated $15,542. 2012 is $16,845, and in 2013, $19,152. Now, when you take the mills against that, it's probably not exact because there are some tax abatements there, or maybe some of the taxes don't get paid. So it's pretty hard to put a finger on what the exact dollar would be, but you're pretty well general range. And getting back to why I am so concerned about a new transfer ambulance, is I've been pushing for about a year because I know this one has got a lot of miles on it and stuff. And they started to figure one last December. And then there were some changes in ambulance staffing, the supervisor and so forth, and it kind of died till July. And at an ambulance squad meeting, I laid out this scenario. I said that, let's say that's the first week in January, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I get a call, my pager goes off, there's a transfer to Fargo. So we go over, paramedic and I go to the ER, and we get the patient loaded, and we take off, and ambulance 6184, the old reliable, has always given us good service. And as I leave town, I see the thermometer on the bank is 22 below. The wind chill is forecast at 35 below, and there's scattered ice on the road and probable ground drifting. We have a patient that is on a heart monitor, is on an IV, and we're taking off for Fargo. And about 1:30 in the morning, a little ways past Tower City, my lights go dim, my alternator went out. Now, you see the ad the hospital has in the paper for drivers that, in this case, a transfer driver, when I back out of that garage at the ER, I'm responsible 100% for the patient, the paramedic, and anyone else if there's a family member along. And so now here we are, 1:30 in the morning, those kind of weather conditions, my ambulance quit. And I don't want to get in that position. Well, that hit a tender nerve, and as far as I know, there was an ambulance, new one has been ordered. They put it out on bids because it's tax money. And we were trying to find out how much money was available. Well, being some of these figures weren't exact, and at the hospital, I wasn't impressed with their keeping system, but the bids were put out, and then CHI and Catholic Health Initiatives owns this hospital, and they call the shots. We like to still think it's our local hospital, but CHI calls the shots, and they questioned whether there was enough money available. And so we started checking, and I was given a note by the ambulance supervisor that there was $122,000 available. A new ambulance is at $109,000, $110,000 range, so that's okay. And I don't know if it's been ordered. I think it has, but I'm not sure. But they got 90 days to deliver it, and they say that they're 4.5 month backlog. So realistically, if one's ordered, if we get it by the 1st of April, we might be lucky. But
How much did they have available for a new one?
they said there was 122,000,
We've been at, yeah,
and that was generated from the 3 mills, and maybe there's some from this
from
1.5 mil
we
from
voted 4
before.
mills in, didn't we?
Right. But there's enough money there about, and sometimes they get some donations from some people too.
Okay.
So I can't really tell.
Before we go
Yeah,
on.
Jim, you're on that board for the.
Yeah, I'm on that ambulance board, and as far as I know, they have got a new ambulance ordered. And they
Okay.
got enough money to pay for it.
Good, that's the
And,
purpose.
we were gonna have a special meeting this month, but I think maybe we're gonna try getting Mary Ann on the phone here in a little bit, and we'll talk to her, being it's Christmas and everything, we'd probably wait till in January. But we wanna meet with, Carrington, and we wanna meet with McHenry. And, you know, Carrington thinks McHenry is getting too much money, and I suppose that, see, McHenry gets money from Griggs County and Eddy County.
Right.
Do you know
and
what they
Foster
got
County.
from Griggs?
What'd they get?
$8.06.
That's all they got. Well, they ain't very much.
And I don't know if that's quarterly, but I'd seen one of the ambulance drivers this morning.
But they wanna meet with them, they wanna have a nightly meeting with the commissioners, and they wanna go over this stuff, and I think we'll try and get here after a little bit, we'll try getting Mary Ann on there and see if we can't change it to January, because with Christmas this year, and you're right on some of these figures, but you're way off on some of them for one reason, the mills have gone up on all these.
But it says how much the figures I have here is what I have got from the treasurer.
Yeah, I understand that.
And
Who has control? We've got a committee for the ambulance. Does the money that we pay the 4 mills, which is 21,000, that's 84,000 going into their kitty, and it's going into the Catholic, into the organization.
That's
It isn't
going-
kept in a separate pool by and my concern is the county dollars that are going in there, we have no track of where it goes. Is it absorbed into the organization and then they divvy it back, or is it staying in the county or in the local? I'd like to see it in the local, into a fund that's with the ambulance,
see, that's
co-owned. That's my concern.
that's some of my remarks I have for you.
That's my
I have
concern.
some suggestions, and there again, I'm just a taxpayer making some
Yeah.
suggestions. And as far as this split now, whether it's 70-30 or whatever it is, I have no problem with that, because I know that Kern has far more runs than McHenry has and that sort of thing. And when it comes to that stuff, I've been on the ambulance squad 4.5 years, but I'm on the bottom rung of the ladder as far as people making decisions and so forth.
Administrative, yeah.
And
McHenry's got a good good bunch of people.
See, they got a
over there
good
working.
core and they say if you start
Yeah.
monkeying with the
But
funds,
the-
there's a big
the-
red flag over there.
But
The
we gotta
question
talk
I-
about
Yeah,
it.
we gotta talk to them, I'll agree.
The question I have, the 4 mills goes for ambulance operation, and Carrington Health Center can use that for wherever they want. That's, when you give them that money, it's gone. But to me, the ambulance, the 3 mills that's designated for ambulance replacement should be in a separate account. And if, in order to touch that, like if they wanna buy an ambulance, they put it out on bids, just like you would with any other tax dollars. And I think that when the money is sent over to the Carrington Health Center, that it should divide it, the auditor certainly has the figures that there's so many dollars generated by the 3 mills, that is sent in one check for one account, and the other 4 mills, whatever it is set in another check. But now they're sending it all in one check and letting them over there decide how they wanna split it off. And it might be the percentage, but it might not be right or whatever. I don't know, but that's one of the concerns I have. And when you're concerned about what happens to the money, you know, we lose control of it, I think that the Foster County Commission should require from CHI or the Carrington Health Center an annual financial report. And this, I know they've had them before, and they're so vague you can't understand them. But when there's an emergency call for the ambulance or a transfer, and whether it's one of you guys, a bill is made out for that specific one, and they have their rates that they set. And if you're a Medicare patient, Medicare pays some of it, insurance pays some, but you should be able to get a statement showing what their expenses are, what they billed the patient for, what their fuel costs are, their insurance, all of their expenses pertaining to the ambulance. And you should also be able to get from them the income, that if they pick you up in the ambulance, an emergency, and they charge you $1,000, for instance, but your insurance only pays $750, they should have every time they have provide a service, there should be a line item. That one was they billed so much and they brought in so much money, so you know if the money they have, whether they need this $80,000 that they're getting just for ambulance
See,
operation.
the operating is what's my concern. That 4 mil should be going for an ambulance for replacement. The other 3 and 1 are the 2/3, 1/3 split. You know, if they can't cash flow, shouldn't they increase their cost? They can't go in the hole. But evidently they
Well-
absorb it and they pass it on to the locals that.
I would agree with you there.
I'd like to see Mary Ann, or Mary, is it? Mary
Mary Ann.
in here. Mary Ann come in and explain it with, we gotta get her on the agenda.
Well, we'll talk to her in a little bit.
Okay, we'll call her.
Yeah.
And another concern I have is that now this ambulance is bought the tax money. It's our money. Whose name is gonna be on the title? If CHI is on the title, which they're gonna want it to be because they've insisted that this new ambulance is painted their colors. Our ambulances are all white with blue color, signs on it or lettering on it. And the CHI colors are green and maybe something else, I'm not sure. Now, the color doesn't bother me, but what would happen if something happened to the ambulance service and CHI sold that new ambulance and it's our tax money that bought it?
What is it, Jim? Do they own the ambulance, don't they, Jim?
That's probably a question you want to ask your attorney, but that's one concern I have, that if it's tax money, who does the ambulance actually belong to? So,
I think that he brought up some good questions, but I think without Mary Ann and some of the ambulance people being here, I think we gotta, wait till we can talk to
Right.
them
Yeah.
together. And I think that we'll get her on the phone here in a little bit, but we've got quite a bit of stuff on the agenda. Can you stay around for a little bit?
well, yeah, I got lots
We'll
of,
get her on the phone here in a little bit. Let's continue on with what we got, and then we'll.
Oh, great.
We had scheduled a meeting for in December. We were gonna schedule a meeting. In fact, I was gonna talk to her. It'd be good
And-
to talk to her on the phone and.
I was aware that one was scheduled, nobody had a date on it, but being probably the last 3 meetings, I think come up just about every meeting about what this split is, you know? And, so I went back and got the records, and you can go by that, and if you figure these figures are wrong, all these figures here all came out of the courthouse here.
One thing that I think that you don't know, Calvin, is not everybody pays for ambulance service. 1 out of every 4, they don't get a penny out of it. Because they don't have no money, and they still gotta do it. And, Blue Cross Blue Shield's the best payer on ambulance, but they only pay 80% of what they charge.
Well, I realize that,
I mean, I know-
Medicare only paid 47%. And I know that, the bill is, if there's an ALS transfer, which is, acute life support, the rate is higher than a BLS, but there's also a mileage figured in whether you go to Bismarck or go to Fargo or whatever. And,
And I know they don't pay you that great. My wife drove for 10 years and I
But,
think that you're not getting
okay.
rich doing it, and I appreciate you doing it though.
but let's get them to put a financial statement out. If they're billing $1,000 and they don't get any, or they only get 500, so that you guys know whether you should be giving our tax money. And I'm
That would
looking
go
at
into
the taxpayer.
privacy. That would
We're
probably
getting
go
our
into
money.
privacy. You can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well.
He's on the board, you know, he's our go-to person because he's on the board and we've been questioning him and he is following up, but it's not,
I go over every
Overnight.
meeting. I never miss a meeting with him, but
Well,
And-
yeah, I'm not
He's the one
disputing
that's-
that at all, but as a taxpayer, I'm
bring your
concerned
concerns.
about how our money is being split up and whether it's really being used. Now, the hospital also gets a bunch of grants for the ambulance service. If I put in 150 hours in 1 month, if I'm on call, I get a bonus for that. That all comes from grant money. And that doesn't cost them anything. They aren't taking that out of their other expenses.
well, I would like to have Mary Ann here and
Okay.
explain
I
it.
think we
And
better-
we'll get her on
sit
the
down
phone
there.
here in a little bit.
Okay.
So.
Paul, you can still stick around. And I see Mr. Keller has got a half hour here, so,
Well, the first thing
your
I'd like
concerns.
the first thing I'd like to do is congratulate Mr. Bauer there for being the top vote getter. And second one I'd like to congratulate is Jimmy Carr. But the
Thank you.
first issue I'd like to bring up is the chairmanship of I know that the statute says 2 different things. It says that the chairman shall be elected, I believe, every January. But there is no provision in there when the chairman is no longer the chairman. Now, in this case, when Mr. Straley left, okay, that left a vacancy. And if you look, I have, in fact,
Yep.
it's right here, Jimmy. Right,
But I read it, so.
yeah.
Did you want to?
Well, yeah, and just for a second to refresh it. It says, in case of a vacancy from any cause whatsoever, the board shall elect another chairman. And there's no provision in here for a vice chairman to act in any capacity. So I would implore you to go ahead and just simply elect. If you have a chairman that's no longer here, go ahead and take this opportunity, go ahead and elect another chairman. That'd be first on my agenda. Second thing is that in the past, Mr. Straley, when he was chairman, used to like to use that little button that's behind there someplace to evict people. And basically, if you read the statutes, particularly in the Century Code in regards to public meetings, you really can't prevent a person from attending a meeting.
No.
But in the same token, to preserve order, there's another statute that's listed there. It's entitled 11.11.10. It says the power of the board to preserve order and fines. And it says, "The Board of County Commissioner has the power to preserve order when sitting as a board and may punish contempts by fines of not more than $5 or imprisonment in county jail for not more than 24 hours. The board may enforce the obedience to its orders by attachment or other compulsory process, and when fines are assessed by it, they may be collected before any district judge having jurisdiction. And within 10 days after they are collected, the monies must be paid to the treasurer of the county and added to the school funds." Right there, Jimmy. So, you know, in the case, in the future, if there's an issue of somebody being in contempt or being out of order, then that's something that the board should vote on whether or not the person's in contempt, and then make the necessary associated penalty, whether it be, you know, putting that person in jail or charging them with $5. Okay. Then the second thing I'd like to bring up, next thing I'd like to bring up would be, it has come to my attention that and I think we found this out recently, that apparently the county does not do any type of background checks on anybody that they employ. And you know, as an example, when Teresa was hired on as the auditor, did anybody ever find out whether or not she had a bankruptcy? Because she had a bankruptcy less than 6 years before the time that she was put on here. Now, I know that your attitude is that you were familiar with the bankruptcy. Is that what you said, Les? That you were familiar with you knew of her bankruptcy before you hired her on?
No, I didn't.
Knowing that, would that have influenced you?
I can't answer it, I don't know. It depends on what the situation is, Mr. Keller. I'm not gonna comment. Go ahead and talk. We'll just let you talk.
Well,
Well, just a minute, I don't think Les was, you weren't even on when we hired her as emergency manager, were you?
No.
But
So
he was a commission member
Yeah.
when she was hired on as
Yes,
an
I was,
auditor.
yeah.
And we all agree that the position of auditor is completely different than, say, somebody that works as, say, as an example, a janitor, or somebody that works as an assistant to somebody. I have never seen any corporate entity of any size or statute, and I've never seen any municipal government that hires people on with absolutely no background checks. This is crazy. You don't know who you have working for you. I'm sure that these are all nice people and stuff like that, but if a person, let me just give you a hypothetical. Let's say a person wants to be a deputy sheriff, and they have serious financial problems. Should they be a deputy sheriff? I mean, because what is that job entail? That job entails carrying a badge and a gun, and for all we know, anything could be possible if a person is in deep financial stress. Okay? And that's why you need to run credit checks on people, and you need to run background checks on people to see if the information that is contained is like it was not contained in her application, that it has come out now that where Risby said when she applied to be emergency manager, and I have the tape of that, by the way, and I have the minutes, where she had said that she worked for 7 years with the 911 operation down in Bismarck. Well, that was not true. It was actually 4 different places from what I understand. And out of those 4 places, she was either fired or forced to resign, all 4 places.
Are you using her as an example? That's water under the bridge, Ted. You want to?
Well, no, I think that it is water under the bridge, but I think that if you don't do background checks on people for employment, such as like whether or not they've declared bankruptcy, whether or not they have financial problems, whether or not their credit is terrible and they don't pay their bills, whether or not they lied
If we say yes, we'll do that in the future? Is
Well,
that
I
good
think
enough
that, I think that you can't
We'll
remedy.
do it in the future. Don't bring up the past.
Did we do that on the new auditor coming in?
No, just wait. You can,
Okay,
The simple fact is that the county of Foster doesn't really know who's working for them. Because if you don't do a background check, then some people will not disclose it. According to Teresa, on one of her blogs, she specifically said that the reason why she didn't disclose her bankruptcy when she applied to be the CFO of this county that's the auditor, was because of the fact that she knew full well Foster County doesn't do background checks. I say,
That's a lie, you're ridiculous.
All right,
that is, I have it printed out.
You
this-
go right ahead,
is
Ted.
this what you wanna do is?
No, what I wanna do,
Ridiculous.
You wanna bring up, and you're bringing it up, you're.
well, this is county business because this is the way the county operates. I'm still back to
I
the.
can't wait for you to do
I'm
this
still
to
back
Miss
to this-
Cables. This is gonna be fun for me.
I'm trying to understand
Passionate,
your,
just
your,
passionate for no reason.
just a second, yeah.
He is, Bill.
Just, let's let,
Chairman,
he's
right
got
now?
the chair, he's got the floor, Mr. Keller does.
Well, my proposal is the fact that we go back and we do a background check. Now, see, this is an example right now. This is an example, and how is she taking notes?
And-
How is she doing her
What
job
would
here?
you do, Ted?
Yeah,
Right,
how would
yeah,
how would she possibly, how would we have possibly known about her background check? I mean, about her bankruptcy and the fact that
Is this-
her employment was rather sordid. This
this
is, that we need to do background checks on every single employee that works for this, with the exception, of course, of the elected officials. Because the voters voted for those elected officials, so obviously you have no jurisdiction over them. But everybody that works in this county should get a background check, and I mean a thorough background check with a credit report and the whole deal, and it should be reviewed by this commission, perhaps like in an executive session. Because if you would have had the opportunity back when she applied to be the, of course you weren't here when she applied to be the emergency manager, but had you known, as an example, that she had a bankrupt, would you have really voted to hire her on as the interim auditor?
I'd had to deal with it then.
But she withheld it from you. That doesn't bother you, that somebody withholds such a
We didn't ask
pertinent
for it,
issue?
either. Yeah, and we didn't ask for it.
So
She was willing to put it
so we
all-
operate a
I don't
county
know.
as don't ask, don't tell? In other words, if you don't, if I can hold something back and you don't, not find out about it, then that's fair game. I say that we go back and we do a background check on every single person that works here, with the exception of the officers.
Is it required by law?
No.
I don't believe it's required to do a background check.
And you're recommending that we should?
What, I think what Ted's saying is that, well, there's two things. Is to do a background check in the future